Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. The Joe Biden administration, this current White House. How can we describe them? Actually, here's a decent one. The bad news bears of diversity hires. I swear there's no standards in the Democrat Party anymore. It actually doesn't matter anymore. It seems like the only standard is, did George Soros pick you? Are you taking George Soros money? Well then perfect, you're hired. Because clearly there's no actual standards in background checks or competence checks, experience checks. From Jen Psaki to Karine Jean-Pierre, Ketanji Brown Jackson, I mean the list goes on. What's really crazy actually is if we go back in time 2 years ago, I mean Jen Psaki was a disaster. She was awful at her job. And at the time I was probably thinking, man, this is the worst press secretary of all time. It doesn't get any worse than this. Well boy do things change over the span of 2 years. This administration keeps outdoing itself with the most incompetent of cabinet picks. Actually, I can't believe I forgot to mention Alejandro Mayorkas. But this time the example comes from a Biden federal judge nominee. You know, a judge, those people who are supposed to be very well versed in the Constitution. Well, wait till you see this little moment here between Republican Senator John Kennedy and Joe Biden's newest federal bench nominee. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, you know I pay attention to what's going on CSPAN every now and then, but not so much because for the most part it's just boring. Debating legislation, hearings on various different topics and issues. Sometimes it's interesting, but 99% of the time, I mean, you're just gonna fall asleep and there's nothing really going on. But every now and then, a C-SPAN moment comes out and goes absolutely mega viral. Here's another one of those moments. This is Republican Senator John Kennedy asking what I think is a very simple question to Joe Biden's most recent nominee to the federal bench.
Judge, on the far end, tell me what Article 5 of the Constitution does.
Article 5 is not coming to mind at the moment.
Okay. How about Article 2?
Neither is Article 2.
Okay. Do you know what purposivism is?
In my 12 years as an assistant attorney general and my 9 years serving as a judge, I was not faced with that precise question. We are the highest trial court in Washington state, so I'm frequently faced with issues that I'm not familiar with, and I thoroughly review the law, research, and apply the law to the facts presented to me.
Well, you're going to be faced with it if you're confirmed. I can assure you of that. Can you tell me what the independent state legislature theory is? I'm just asking you, not your opinion of what is it? It's before the Supreme Court now.
In my 12 years as a Washington State Assistant Attorney General, and that particular doctrine was not presented to me.
I'm out of time. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
I mean, you have to be kidding me, right? Look at John Kennedy's face. This man is flabbergasted. I mean, holy moly. The Articles of the Constitution. Now, I'm no legal scholar, and even I know a good chunk of this. How do you not know the first 3 articles? Article 1 establishing the legislative branch, Article 2 the executive branch, and Article 3 the judicial branch. I mean, this is taking me back to that infamous Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez moment.
We work our butts off to make sure that we take back all 3 chambers of Congress, all 3 chambers of government, the presidency, the Senate, and the House in 2020. We can't start working in 2020.
The 3 branches or the 3 chambers of government, the Senate, the House, and the presidency. But you know, that's one thing. AOC being ignorant of the 3 branches of government isn't surprising. You know, honestly, the average person for the most part isn't memorizing this stuff. You might have learned it when you were younger, then you move on with your life and you're doing something else. You can't expect most people to answer the question correctly. I mean, if Mark Dice was doing beach interviews, I doubt pretty much anybody would be answering the question effectively. But I'd say this is a little bit of a different context here. This is a lawyer, a judge, a supposed constitutional scholar. This is somebody that is being presented in front of the Senate as President Biden's nominee to the federal bench. This isn't no small potatoes stuff. You're supposed to understand the law and understand the Constitution. This individual has no idea. It also shows just a basic lack of wit. You know, she would have been a lot more of a smooth operator and probably a much better lawyer had she responded effectively, you know, a little slick response of, I'm not going to play that game with you, Senator Kennedy. But instead, she crashed and burned in a public, embarrassing moment. And it really shows you the quality of these candidates and these professionals in the public world. They're not exactly the cream of the crop, so to speak. If you're a top lawyer, you're probably working at a private firm representing massive corporations. I mean, what an absolute joke. And it's getting much worse. The standards are dropping. I mean, this is basically the standard these days.
I'm certainly not going to get ahead of the president. That is not something that I can do from here. But look, and I kind of said it at the top, the Biden-Harris administration is the most diverse in history. That is a fact. And we expect this trend to continue. The cabinet is majority people of color for the first time in history. The cabinet is majority female for the first time in history. The majority of White House senior staff identify as female. 40% of White House senior staff identify as part of racially diverse communities. A record 6 assistants to the president are openly LGBTQ. And also if you think about our 3,000 appointees, 58% female, 51% people of color, 6% disabled, 31% first-generation Americans, 17% first-generation college grads, and 14%, when I say 17% first-generation college grads, I forgot to add that percent, and 14% LGBTQ. And I think that matters.
Karine Jean-Pierre praises the Biden administration as being the most diverse in history. Yeah, maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's why this administration friggin' sucks so much. Instead of focusing on policy, instead of focusing on, delivering actual results for the American people and making people's lives easier and better, delivering a higher standard of living, they're focused on being the most diverse administration in American history. Oh, my history. We've made history. Yeah, down the line, I have a feeling that historians aren't going to remember the Biden administration for filling LGBTQ plus quotas. Just ridiculous. And I mean, look where it landed them. Constitutional scholars who don't know anything about the Constitution just kind of make it up as they go. When faced with a legal issue, I do the relevant research. I'm a judge. What am I supposed to know the Constitution over here? Forget about it. Karine Jean-Pierre, the worst press secretary in American history. I mean, every single day watching the press briefings is legitimately painful. An embarrassing train wreck. Not to mention the most recent scandal with, what's that guy's name again? Mr. Non-Binary stealing women's luggages at airports. You know, the bald guy who Biden hired in his energy department, the same guy who was running a fetish Instagram account. I mean, holy moly, hiring freaking fetish workers as federal US government officials. There's no standards anymore. It's just tick whatever woke gender box, racial box, identity box there is, so you can get your little most diverse in American history headline. It's the degradation of basic values in society. I mean, we don't value competence anymore. We don't value results. We don't value intellect. We don't seem to value anything of importance anymore. And that's why we're in this position with a geriatric dementia patient in office, this guy in the Senate.
And the Eagles are so much better than the Eagles. Woo! It's crazy.
Karine Jean-Pierre at the White House press podium, bald non-binary dude at the airport, the greatest constitutional scholar of all time. I mean, I don't even know anymore. It's all just so crazy, but the craziest thing, the most insane thing, are the millions of people who voted for this. It's just absurd. That's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel if you guys are up for it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.